We spend a lot of time hating on the older millennial, and we give him a lot of shit, and I've really been thinking about it, and I've come to the conclusion that, it's not good enough. We can do better. Like, he puts in a lot of effort, guys. He works really hard to just be the most vile, evil, truly hateable, subhuman excuse for a life form on the planet. Granted, he's a failure at literally everything, so he hasn't even achieved that because, Stephen Miller still exists, but he truly has earned more hate than we really give him. That said, though, I'm one of those weak beta libs who really suffers from empathy and love for my fellow man, and I like to celebrate when any human reaches a milestone worth celebrating or grows as a person, even when they are as vile and disgusting as the obliterated millennial. And Joe Redden, aka the older millennial, has reached one of those milestones. He is, for the first time in 3 decades, 2 whole days sober. That's mostly because it takes a couple days for the prison hooch to ferment, but an accomplishment is an accomplishment, so let's celebrate. Here's to you, lying, grifting Nazi propaganda man who says we should throw disabled people off of cliffs and has scammed his followers out of $3.2 million because apparently they are the dumbest people on the fucking planet. Congrats on your hours of sobriety. I must admit you took an unorthodox method to get there. First violating parole from your last DUI and then skipping out on the warrant and then pissing off pretty much the entire internet, which is notoriously petty, so they could track you down and let the cops know where you were hiding. Then you started your hours of sobriety with an interesting approach. Some shock therapy delivered courtesy of a Florida police officer. I mean, I've heard some people try coffee to sober up, but I am sure there's nothing like getting tasered with 150,000 volts to really knock the buzz off. And all this time I thought that Florida, because it hates people, had cut all of its addiction services, but I'm glad you were able to find the resources you needed to help with that sobriety. And then, getting in a fight with the cops to make sure that they don't let you out on bail right away so you stay locked up so you can't get another drink. Genius, really. And you might be a sad, divorced, lonely drunk, and you might be a pathological liar and a not artist, because nothing you've ever done could constitute art, and not a man, because, I'm not entirely sure you're human. I'm really trying hard to find another adjective, and I feel like it's on the tip of my tongue, but I guess we're just gonna have to leave it at con, because like your ex-wife, I just can't seem to finish. Anyway, and you might be soulless, and in a cult, and not easy to look at, and a complete failure, and a bully, and a Nazi, and a literal sociopath. But despite all that, at least you're a total burden on society that we would all be better off without. So cheers to your couple days of sobriety there, Joey. Maybe now that you're sober, sitting there in jail, alone, with your thoughts. No internet where you can distract yourself bullying trans kids or making racist jokes or spreading Nazi propaganda. Just some time to do some introspection and self-reflection. You can think about what you've done with your sad, pathetic little life and how you got to the point where the entire internet is just reveling at the thought of your fat ass getting tased and then thrown in jail. And then you could start asking yourself the hard questions like, what do you have to live for? And what flexible things in my cell could possibly support my body weight? I'm guessing not much, because you clearly do not go long without getting the drunchies. Anyway, Joe, congrats on finally having the day you deserve. And you can take some solace in the fact that you finally, for the first time in your whole miserable life, done something good for humanity. Because the mental image of you laying face first on the ground, jiggling and pissing yourself as a cop stands over you, squeezing the trigger of a taser, telling you to stop resisting and comply, well, that mental image has brought in a lot of joy to so many people. And that is a beautiful thing, Joseph. What is that advice you always give unarmed brown people when they get brutalized by the cops? Should have just complied with their requests. Why didn't you just comply, Joe? Anyway, we're all glad you didn't. So enjoy the withdrawals while we're all out here celebrating. And don't drop the soap, bud. Not because I think you'll end up with an unwanted boyfriend. You are disgusting, even by prison standards. Mostly because I'm just almost entirely certain you're physically incapable of bending over to pick it back up. Since you already look like you smell like unwashed ass, it'd be a really cruel thing to do to your cellmate to go back there without a full, solid lathering. All right, anyway, cheers, bud.